Hey guys, this is Andy here again. In this video I'm going to show you guys how to navigate Resolume and just some of the things that you need to be looking out for just to run a normal weekend. So for basic operation, all you really need to worry about is this section up here. This is called our deck, and this is where all of our clips for the weekend are laid out. All of our visuals, lyric support, flow content, all that stuff is laid out here. And then over here we have our layer controls, which you shouldn't need to mess with too much, but I just want you to be aware of where they are and some things that can get you in trouble with those. All this stuff down here you don't really need to worry about right now. We'll cover that in a video later on, but that's all just some different controls that we use for setup. Then over here we have the output monitor, which kind of shows you what content's being put out at the moment. And then we have our preview monitor, a different way we can preview clips. What you need to focus on mainly for a normal weekend is these tabs up here, and these are called columns. Resolume is split up into layers and columns, kind of like Malumin was if you used that. Layers are like different stacks of video clips. So you might have one layer that's visuals, one layer that's lyrics, a layer that's flow. But those are all going to stack on top of each other, and they're going to show up in the order that they stack. So a layer on top of another one is going to override that layer. And then columns are like individual pieces of the worship experience. So we'll have a column for each element in the worship experience. Basically what you'll do for a worship experience is bounce through each element of the worship experience, and you'll click on one of these tabs to fire a column. So all you really need to do is fire these individual columns as the worship experience progresses. Now I told you about the layer controls over here. I wanted to point those out because there's a lot of sliders and different controls here, and you don't really need to worry about all these. We'll go over the control for those in the next video when we talk about our MIDI controller. The only reason I wanted to point that out is notice when I scroll around here to get to different parts of the deck, if I try to do that over here, if I try to scroll up and down, but I have my mouse over here, and I try to scroll and I'm hovering over one of these faders, notice how it actually moves the fader up and down. I'm scrolling up and down on my touchpad, but it's actually moving this fader up and down rather than scrolling up and down. So if you need to navigate to different parts of the deck to scroll up and down, you want to make sure your mouse is in this area here. And now I can scroll left and right, up and down, no problem. And when you're not using the mouse, it's probably a good idea to park it over here in the preview monitor, because there's nothing you can click over here that's really going to make a difference. And then one more thing I'll show you, I mentioned that this area is called the deck. We can actually have multiple decks inside one composition. The whole project for the weekend is called a composition, but we can build different decks, and the deck is just a collection of different video clips and different arrangements of columns. So I'll show you what another deck looks like. Every song has its own deck as well. So inside this deck, instead of it being laid out just like a worship experience, this is just all the different settings that we might need for playing this song, Grateful. So different timecode settings, and then different cue points that we can start the song in and just let them play automatically. The two decks that you probably want to pay attention to are timecode and no timecode. So I'm going to go back to the timecode deck. So this is the deck that we'll use if you're using timecode at your campus. And if you don't know what that means, don't worry, we'll cover that in another video. The other deck that you might use is the no timecode deck. And this one's going to be built a lot like how Malumin was built. It's going to have two columns for every song, but just like Malumin, the first column is going to be the intro, and then the second column is going to be the verse, and you'll fire on the downbeat. But it should be laid out almost the same as the timecode deck, with each element in the worship experience having its own column, and you just progressing through left to right through the worship experience. So that's what you need to be looking out for on the interface. In the next video I'm going to cover the controls from our MIDI controller, and show you guys how to navigate through a worship experience without even having to use the keyboard and mouse. So I'll see you guys in the next video.